Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and welcome to the fly-by-wire Airbus A380. Probably the most awaited aircraft in the entirety of Microsoft Flight Simulator. It is finally available through the fly-by-wire installer, and always remember, it comes completely for free. The awesome guys at Fly-by-Wire are giving us this magnificent bird completely for free. Now, this video is going to be an early first look of myself onto the aircraft. Rest assured, a lot of stuff feels pretty similar in the A380, but there's likewise a lot of stuff that is very different. You can't just hop into here from your average A320 and think that you will be a pro A380 jockey straight away. That's not going to be the case. You will have to do quite a bit of studying, but that is exactly what we're here for. Now, this video is not going to be a tutorial. I am still studying this aircraft myself, but if I gave myself a complete virtual type rating before I started showing it off to you, we'd probably be seeing ourselves in some 3 months again. Now, let's head right into it and have a look at this magnificent bird. Now, we are going to fly the A380 from Frankfurt to Düsseldorf today, which is part of the A380 advertisement tours that Lufthansa did when they got their first A380 aircraft. The only thing we are going to do different is that we will smack on a full load of passengers today, so that we get a little bit more common weights for the aircraft. Alright. So with that out of the way, I'd say we are going to start powering the aircraft up straight away so that you guys can start enjoying the awesome sounds that come with this aircraft. And for some reason the terminal textures sometimes seem to be a little bit jerky here, so let's get that sunshade down so that we don't have to see it in the first place. Alright, so the engine masters are off, the engine mode selector, engine start selector is in the norm position, wipers are off, and then we can turn the batteries on. And for now, just enjoy these sounds. So there it is, our aircraft coming to life. Now the next thing we're going to do is to control those cockpit lights, and I will just turn them all off except for the intake lights. And here we go. Okay, so from here on, let's go ahead and turn up our electronic flight bag, and we are going to import our SimBrief data over here. So, let's have a quick look into our flight plan. So, Frankfurt to Düsseldorf today, Lufthansa 380 in the A380-800 with the Rolls-Royce Trent engines. Now, quick check over the flight plan is going to tell us that our weather conditions for the flight are going to be fairly good. So, looking at our departure airport Frankfurt, we have runway 25 in use over here. Over in Düsseldorf, it's variable winds, so probably going to be runway 23 left. Alternates, Hannover, good weather. Kassel-Calden, well, not sure I want to fly there. Or to Paderborn in the A380, but that's going to be a whole separate topic. Okay, so overall we are looking at very good weather conditions. No reason to take much extra fuel, but 20.2 is our planned takeoff fuel. 21 if you include the taxi. Let's make it 25 so that we have a little bit of extra, shall we? So 25 tons of fuel. Going into the ground menu, let's go ahead and we have our SimBrief payload pre-selected over here. Now, just to show you, if we made this a real-time boarding, it would take 40 minutes to complete to load those 484 guests on board. We're going to make it an instant one, just to be on the safe side here. Okay, so begin boarding, please. Thank you. And likewise for the fuel, they say 20,900 over here. Let's make it 25,000 just so that we have a bit extra. And here again we are going to make this one an instant loading so that we have, you know, a decent time for our pre-flight. Okay, so with that our aircraft is already loaded up, then we can go ahead and start to do a little bit of work over here. So first things first, ECAM, Let's find that recall button. That should be somewhere over here. And here we go, recall. Let's press that. And looks like there is nothing in the recall. Excellent. So then a couple of basic checks. The oxygen quantities are looking good. The hydraulic quantities are looking good. And the engine oil quantities, well, we don't have anything visible over here right now. There should be some buttons somewhere over here to turn the FADEC onto the ground power. And indeed there are. So, interestingly enough, the oil quantities are showing 0. That's probably a work in progress then. Remember, we are looking at the very first version of the aircraft over here. Okay, so that is that. Alright, then let's go ahead and do our fire test. And that's looking good, and we can start aligning our ADRs. Number 1, 2, and 3. Okay, well that is in progress. The last quick check. So the flap lever is in 0, and the flaps are in 0. Likewise, the spoilers are in, and the brake pressure accumulators are looking good. Let's release that brake for a moment and apply the pedals manually, and that works fine. So, here we go. Okay, so that stuff is looking good. The IRS alignment has started, so then let's go ahead with our cockpit pre-flight. Basically, it's just extinguish the white lights, so fairly easy going. Looks like the flight recorder ground control button is not implemented yet, but that shall not be too much of an issue there. So, strobe light on auto, nav light on. Note that the lights are a little bit different in the A380 than they are in the smaller Airbuses. Okay, those lights are coming on. Let's also go ahead and start the APU so that the quality of the air in the aircraft is going to get a little bit nicer. Alright, moving further up. We'll set the cockpit temperature to auto, and note that there is a new button over here for the cabin temperatures, which is in the 6 o'clock position. You've got the purser select button, so like that the purser can control the cabin temperatures himself, which makes it a little bit easier. A lot of fuel pumps over here. What's most important is you turn the main pumps on before the standby pumps. And here we go. Okay, so last but not least we can go over the third column, but there is nothing we really need to do over here for the time being. And with that we can go down to our pedestal. So, or rather to the main panel I should say. Alright, so let's see, Frankfurt, the weather is on QNH of 1027. Here we go, set once and set twice. The second standby instrument is currently not implemented by fly-by-wire. That's the first version of the aircraft, so... and it is freeware, don't forget that, so that's totally fine. Alright, moving down then, we can tune our delivery frequency 122035 and set that one active. Here we go. And then we want to transmit on VHF1, listen to VHF1 and VHF2, and we also want to listen to the interphone. Perfect. Apart from that, not a lot to set down here. So let's go right into what's probably the most interesting part over here. That is the FMS programming. So let's go right into it. So we're going to start up here. Active flight plan. Let's go into the flight initialization, and we're going to do the company flight plan request. So uplink insertion is in progress now, and once that is finished, so receive company flight plan, insert, and here we go, Lufthansa 380 Frankfurt to Düsseldorf. So flight levels, temperatures are all in, and then we can go ahead onto the departure page. We're going to take off on runway 25 center, and we are going to follow a maroon departure here, which is the Maroon 3 Whiskey. Alright, back to the temporary flight plan, and then we can go on to the destination. And we are going to land on runway 23 left. The approach will be the ILS approach and the Domox 23 transition. Right, back to the temporary flight plan and insert. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the plan. So, constraints selected, 10 miles range. Let's just quickly scroll through this, just to be sure that it looks the way it is supposed to look. And indeed it does. Perfect. Okay. So from here we can continue via the initialization page. Nav8, we don't really need to tune anything over here. So return, fuel and load. That is going to be the next interesting one. And we can grab that information from right down here. So, payload. We are looking at a zero fuel weight of 350.4, which is roughly the maximum takeoff weight of the 777-300ER. And a CG of 34.2. So, 350.4 and 34.2. Right, block fuel, 25 tons. And the passenger number 484, cost MX30, that is all looking good. Very good, then let's go for the takeoff performance. And unfortunately, one thing I couldn't really find yet is a takeoff performance calculator. For that reason, let's just go ahead and guess something. I mean, we basically know that we are pretty light today. So, flex 74, 135, 135, and 140. Stabilizer trim 35.4, flaps config 1 takeoff, packs on, anti-ice off. Thrust reduction and acceleration, we can make that at 1,400 each, which is roughly 1,000 above the ground. Alright, transition altitude 5,000. The climb page is looking good, manage 250, later 290. And speed limit 250 below 10,000. Perfect. So, with that, our setup is mostly completed. Now, if we want to play around a little bit, we can go down to the flight plan, and you will immediately see that quite a couple of things have changed over here compared to the, let's say, old school Airbus FMS. But basically, the information available in here is more or less still exactly the same. So, the only difference is that you see both of the things at the same time now. So you have both the waypoint names, you've got the speeds, the altitudes, but also the courses and the distances and all that good stuff available straight away now, which makes your life really quite a bit easier. So it does take a little while to get used to this kind of FMS, but once you are used to it, I really do believe that your life will get a lot easier over here. Now, a couple of other things that we do have over here. The CPDLC is currently not implemented. Then you've got the surveillance page, and that is where you have all the TCAS controls. I see a lot of people are complaining that they can't find these controls in the Discord server. And well, this is where they are. So you can go either up here onto surveillance, or you also have the button available down here. So those are the two that you have available. Last but not least, FCU backup is currently not implemented. That's fine. So this is where you can do all these settings. Alright, so let's bring this back into the FMS, because that is really what we need for the time being. And that's it. Alright. So, let's select the performance page over here for the time, and the flight plan page on the pilot monitoring side, and that is all we need. Okay, perfect. So that is our basic setup done. Now, last but not least, we do the FCU, and there's a couple of changes here compared to your A320 FCU. First of all, you will have noticed the flight director button has gone to the middle over here, and there is only one flight director now, and not two of them. Apart from that though, the rest is still pretty much standard Airbus stuff over here really. So we want the constraints, but we can also select the airports at the same time now. That is new. Likewise, we want to see our VOR1 and VOR2, and we can also select the traffic, and we can do the same on the other side as well. So constraints, airport, traffic, and VOR1 and 2. The taxi cam unfortunately is not implemented at the moment, but hey, that's fine. Alright, last but not least, we have the Onboard Airport Navigation System, OANS, which will become available once the IRS alignment is completed, and that will show us our airport map in real time, which is a really cool feature. Just 1 minute to go until the alignment is complete, then I will be able to show you. Well, here we go. So let's go over here. You will be available, my friend. You just worked on the previous flight. So, airport select, Frankfurt, display. Here we go. And here we are. So that data comes right from Navigraph, which is a really cool thing. As you can see, you can easily drag and drop this around, which is really, really cool. Okay. So that is our basic Airbus A380 EFIS. Okay, very cool. So we do have a little bit of that basic stuff done now. So let's go ahead and start our departure briefing. So let's take a moment over here. Everything is looking a little bit different. That easily brings you out of the flow. APU bleed can come on. Well, but then I'd say let's move over to the first officer's seat, and then we can go ahead and start our briefing. Okay, so what can I offer you? Basically, the aircraft is in a good shape. I just want to talk about this before we can start with the briefing itself. So the aircraft is in a good shape. I'm not expecting any abnormals over here, and the basic handling of the aircraft is more or less the same that it is in any other Airbus, really. The only thing we got to be careful with is we are sitting pretty high over here, so everything will look like we are going a lot slower than we actually are. So, Frankfurt runway 25 center, Lima 3 intersection with a Maroon 3 Whiskey departure, climbing flight level 70, and the MSA is 4,300 feet. In terms of extra fuel and time, the big question is where can we find this? Should be on the fuel and load page, I suppose. Yeah, 9.4 tons extra, that is quite a lot of time as well. Okay, so no hotspots for the taxi. Stop margin for ejected takeoff should be more than plenty today. Engine outset brings us on the runway track 25 miles straight ahead, and if we need to come back immediately, then we can do so here in Frankfurt. 25 center is going to be our runway of choice. I don't have any specials on non-standards. Threats for the departure? None. Perfect, so that's our briefing completed. So let's go ahead and do the cockpit preparation checklist, which we have available down here on the eCam now. Okay, so cockpit preparation checklist. Gear pins and covers removed. Fuel quantity. So we have 25,000 kilos balanced. Okay, barrel reference QNH 1027. Cockpit preparation checklist complete. Okay, so looks pretty good. I'd say we're about ready for pushback, so let's go ahead and request GSX, pushback and departure. You can take Fraport for our handling, please. Then we've just got to do a little bit of cleanup work over here. So, sunshade's going up. We can release this one over here. Ground from flight deck. Go ahead. So, please confirm all doors and hatches are closed, ground equipment removed, and the bypass pin is installed. And you can disconnect the external power now, please. Okay, that's all confirmed, and we are ready for pushback when you are. Roger, stand by. Okay, so transponder on, and altitude reporting on as well. Perfect. Here we go. Okay, before start checklist. Park and brake. Set. Takeoff speeds and thrust. V1 135, VR 135, V2 140, flex 74. Okay, before start checklist complete. So, ground from flight deck. Go ahead. We're cleared for push, and the park and brake is set. Stand by. Why did they not do anything here? Well, looks like the tuck is connected already. Though I do severely hope that they are going to remove that stair down there before we start moving. Otherwise, things are probably going to get a little bit expensive. Okay, anyway. Now the big question is how can we get back to... Now the big question is how can we center the map again? Which is something that I have to admit I should probably have looked up before I started moving the map around, but that's fine. We are going to make it like that. Alright. So, ground flight, we're clear to push, area 3, park and brake set. Release brakes. Brakes released. Start the pushback. And stand by for engine start. Roger. So, did they remove the stairs? No. Ooh, quite a bit of stutters over here. Which is unfortunately something I do see quite a bit with the A380. Not a lot I can do about it, to be honest. The performance of the aircraft is not perfect for me. It does have quite an impact on the systems. Okay, so looks like now that we're moving, the map has automatically centered itself on the aircraft again. That makes our life easy. Okay then. Let's wait until we're clear of the road. Well, our wings are probably clear of the road by now. Yep, they are. Alright, start sequence will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, engine 1 and 2 start. You don't need to start the timer, but I kinda like it. At least to see how the engine start is actually gonna perform over here. Just enjoy those sounds here. Okay, we have a good start on 1 and 2, starting 3 and 4. So, engine 3 and 4 start. Yep, that frame rate is suffering a little bit. Interestingly enough, on the inside it is a lot better. So I'm really not quite sure what causes the laggy frames on the outside. But in any case, here we go. Now the pushback is complete. Set your brakes, please. Brake set. Okay, we have 4 good starts. You're clear to disconnect. Show me the sign on the right, please. With a pin, and have a wonderful day. Okay, so we need a trim at 35%. Now the real aircraft has the trim switch located just down here, but I am using my joystick trim switch right now because that kind of makes it a little bit easier. And here we go. Okay. So then, after start checklist, please. Anti-ice, off, After start checklist complete. So, these guys are going, and it looks like the A320 just has to go away. Remove traffic, please. So, confirm destination, regenerate traffic. That should hopefully clear this stuff out. Big airport, quite a bit of lag when we do this, but here we go. This is better. Okay, so there comes the tuck. Now we've got to find the ramp agent somewhere. Okay, there he is, holding the pin. Perfect. So let's do the flight control check. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral. So taxi is fairly easy. We go straight out, November 8, Lima, and then to the full length. Park and brake released. So a little bit of power to get it moving. And talk about power, you will probably notice we have a slightly different layout over here. So the N1 is not the controlling parameter, but the thrust actually is. So that's something new that Airbus has come up with, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But first of all, let's do the brake check. Pressure 0. So Airbus is now controlling the engines via the thrust parameter, and thrust basically is exactly that. It simply tells you the percentage of thrust based on 0, with the engine producing no forward thrust, up to 100 for producing the full takeoff thrust. Isn't that easy? Now this thrust parameter will give you quite a good idea of how aircraft engines are operating. So just look at the thrust parameter, then look at the N1 in relation to it, and you will probably notice pretty quickly that the N1 and the thrust do not have a linear relationship with one another. And that's exactly how it is in any aircraft. But it is something that you only really notice when you have two different parameters indicating it on the ECAM. But when you think about it in your standard A320, for example, where your power is driven by N1 on the CFM engines, you will probably notice that the N1 is going to be rather weak in the low ranges, so between 0 to 40% roundabout. You are not going to notice a lot of difference in the thrust output, but above those 40%, you will notice quite a huge increase in power rather quickly. Okay, clear on the right side and clear on the left side. So now comes the big challenge of keeping the aircraft on the taxiways. The taxi camera would really help here, but unfortunately Microsoft Flight Simulator just doesn't support them. Which is something that we'll just have to deal with. So, oh, should probably have turned a little bit earlier. But let's see, full tiller input still gets us around the corner. Okay, so clear left side and clear right side. Then let's get it around the corner. This is a huge aircraft. You really feel it during the taxi as well. You really, really feel it, man. Okay, here we go. So, I don't have any changes to the takeoff briefing. We can keep everything as we briefed it. So that stuff is looking good. Config test, looking good. Okay, taxi checklist please. So, flight controls, checked. Flap setting, conf 1 plus F. Radar. Is actually inoperative. Okay. That's fine. We'll just take it as on. Okay, taxi checklist completed. Okay, looks like we do need a little bit of thrust to maintain the speed here. The aircraft seems to be decelerating rather quickly when we take the thrust off. Yep, it definitely is a little bit laggy here. Okay, back to the inside. Okay, so we'll just stay inside then. That makes our life a little bit easier. I should probably have tried the 4K texture version. I am using the 8K one right now, but it just looks too good not to try it. And as long as we stay inside, the frame rate is actually pretty good, so that is okay for me. Okay, Lima 3 is coming up next to the right, and that is going to be our intersection for the takeoff. I can't spot anybody on the approach, but let's try our magic box. So TCAS, TARA and above. Speed down at 10 knots. Okay, there's nobody on the approach. So, clear to line up runway 25 center. Line up checklist. Okay, takeoff runway 25 center, Lima 3. Cabin crew advised. Packs 1 and 2
center.
On. Lineup checklist complete. Alright, approaching 25 center. That is VRAS in action over here. With the new voice set as well. So you can see it has been updated already. And we're clear on the approach. And we're clear on the right side. So remember, VRAS is a third-party product, is not included by default. What is included by default, however, I believe, is the indications we receive over here. Runway ahead and runway 07 center, 25 center. I do believe that comes from the OANS and the A380 itself. So it is the two systems acting and playing together over here. Okay, 25 center, cleared for takeoff. Lufthansa 380. Are you ready?
On runway 25 center.
Intentionally. And I overshot the lineup a bit. Well, let's correct that and take off. Man flag 74, SS runway, auto thrust blue. Thrust set, checked. 100 knots, checked. V1 rotate. Positive climb, gear up. Nav, checked. Autopilot 1. I want to see how the aircraft is handling, so I'll let it fly on autopilot and just monitor how the autopilot is going to handle this. That is normally what a pilot does when you transition onto a new type and you start getting familiar with the new type anyway. Thrust climb, climb, auto thrust. So we departed with the packs on, no need to do this now. Speed restriction 200 knots over here, so I am going to keep the flaps out. Well, actually green dot is 198, okay. In that case, flap 0. Speed checked, flaps 0. Nope, probably not. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue our climb. Flight level 240 is going to be our cruising level, and we'll go up all the way straight away. We're sitting in a very, very light aircraft, so don't be surprised if we're climbing at 5,000 feet a minute over here. That's normal. Set standard. Standard cross-check, passing flight level 54. Now. Checked. And we're going right into the sun. Let's get those sunshades down. Like this. Man, look at that pitch. 17 degrees. Okay, next up 230 knots. Now let's see how well the aircraft is going to fly the radius to fixed leg down here. If you look over here, you can see the next leg is defined by a 5 DME arc. So that is what's going to come up over here. We do have a 230 knot restriction on the Delta Foxtrot 999 4 point. So the turn should be perfectly flyable for the aircraft. But let's see how that's going to work in action. And passing level 100. I will keep the passengers seated due to the rather significant pitch we have at the moment. So, looks like we're deviating slightly from the route. 0.2 left at the moment, which we can also see on the LDAF over here. Every one of those dots represents 0.1 nautical miles. But I think it should be able to go to 30 degrees bank here, and then it would probably be able to follow that track precisely. But look at this, 5,000 feet a minute rate of climb. Just wonderful, isn't it? So let's get those sunshades in place. Okay, slightly overshot here by 0.8 nautical miles. It may have been because of our immense rate of climb that our true airspeed just became too great. That combined with the fact that it only did 25 degrees of bank rather than 30, that probably led to the overshoot. So that's nothing that I'm blaming fly-by-wire for. We are just really, really light. So this is what our route looks like. I tend to say we are going to take a little direct over here. So let's go on to direct, select, Domox, and yep, that looks good, insert. Okay, approaching. Speed, vertical speed. Once the pitch is permanently below 7.5, I am going to turn the seatbelts off. But man, this weight is just much too light. We're only at 372 tons. Okay, the pitch is good now. Seatbelts auto. I do really love how slowly the aircraft reacts to the vertical speed input. Look at how smooth that is. Your passengers are not going to feel any of this. This is exactly what it should be like. Really, really well done, fly-by-wire. Okay, VS 1000. 1000 to go. So, last 1000 feet in the climb. We can already take a little moment over here. Well, first of all, to increase the brightness of our EFB a bit. And then to start going for... Interesting, why is the Navigraph account not linked? I did link it just prior to the flight, so... probably just desynchronized itself. Well, that stuff seems to happen, so let's just do this again. So, account linked off screen, and here we go. Okay, destination Düsseldorf, approach ILS 23 left. And we can turn this full screen, please. Here we go. Okay, I'll cruise. And here we are. All the way up at cruise level. 40 miles to our top of descent. Probably a little bit less, because I am going to fly a little further shortcut here. Enter destination data, we'll do that. But I want to show you how to enter an additional waypoint along the route. So after Delta Lima 450, let's go insert next waypoint. And we're going to make this Delta Lima 455. Alright. Enter. And here is the new waypoint. Then we can delete the route discontinuity. Well, I think we have to insert first and then discontinuity delete. Insert. Now let's have a quick look at the plan view. To show you what I have just done. So, if you scroll along the flight plan, you can see I've added this additional point here, Delta Lima 455. And this is 4 miles prior to the final approach fix. And in a situation where there is not too much traffic around, that's pretty much the direct we would expect to receive from air traffic control. So let's once again do direct. Delta Lima 455, our new point. Insert. And here we go. So, let's give it a small moment to calculate. Looks like we have actually passed our top of descent already then. Alright, that's fine. Let's go ahead and initiate our descent. So, we'll go for 10,000 feet first. Thrust idle descent, alt, flight level 100 blue. Sounds familiar? Okay, so enter destination data. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to the performance pages and we'll start with the performance approach page. So that's our weather for the destination. If we go all the way up, we can see Düsseldorf 130 at 5, Kavok 9 degrees 1026. So 130 at 5, temperature 9. QNH 1026. The minimum is going to be barometric 360. Config full. V approach 139 is looking good to me. For the go around, we can leave everything as is. And then going back down to our flight plan page. Missed approach straight at 3D near Düsseldorf. Right hand turn 309 until Mike Hotel Victor Radial 9, and then course 060 in onto bot drop, climbing to 4000. Looking excellent. Okay, very good. So, that much about our basic FMS setup down here. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the brake to vacate system. So, this is something new for me as well, so we are kinda dealing with this on the fly. Let's go to Düsseldorf, display airport. Speed. And we are back on profile. Okay, for some reason this is interesting. Okay. I would kind of have expected that we can get exactly to the airport right now, but does this work for any of the other airports? No. Okay, I might just not know what I'm doing right now, so don't put too much into that. Well, that is a pity, but we will survive. Then we'll just not use the OANS, but I'm just gonna use Auto Brakes 3. Or rather, we are not going to use brake to vacate, but I will use Auto Brake 3, so that should be more than good to go. Okay. I think that's all we need over here, so let's go ahead and start the approach briefing, please. And if we're on it already, let's get rid of that. Perfect. Okay, we're inbound Delta Lima 455. The MSA is 2,800 feet and the approach will be the ILS for runway 23 left. Minimum 360, go around trajectory straight at 3D Düsseldorf, right hand turn. And then a right hand turn again, inbound to Bottrop NDV, climbing 4,000 feet. Now, extra fuel and time is more than plenty. Let's just see if we can find that fuel page. Okay, looks like it doesn't actually tell us the extra time over here, but that's fine. We will survive without it. Okay. So, guidance for the approach is going to be the flat director with manual thrust. And landing config full, stop margin probably plenty. We will use the reverse and auto brakes 3, planned exit is going to be Lima 6, and hotspots for taxi in, we don't really have any. Neither do we have any specials or non-standards. Threats for the arrival? Honestly, the only threat I see is that we are flying this aircraft for the second time only. So, stopping performance of the aircraft is something that we're not so familiar with. How are we going to mitigate against that? Well, we make sure that we meet the stabilized approach gate at 1,000 feet, configure the aircraft on time, and we'll try to stay ahead of the plane. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? No? Perfect. So, seatbelts are coming on. And I think we can get rid of the sunshades over here. Let's see, where is that click spot for the aft one? Can't really find the click spot. Well, let's do it that way then. Here it is. Okay. Well, not perfect, but good enough. Or as another favorite YouTuber of mine would say, good enough for government work. Alright, so a lot of things happening at the same time over here for an aircraft that we are not so familiar with. So next up we're going to reach level 100. We will start decelerating towards 250 knots. The approach checklist is to go. Thrust idle. Yeah, so next up is the 10,000 foot flow. How about we do that just now? Landing lights on, seatbelts on, landing system on. Quick check, TCARs below. Now, something that I'm not 100% sure, maybe you guys know that as you're watching the video, is where to check whether we have GPS primary on this aircraft, since I can't really find that progress page that I'm so used to from my favorite Airbuses. And we only have the performance pages here, but well, if the aircraft wouldn't meet the minimum performance requirements, it would tell us anyway, so we can assume that we are GPS primary. Okay. So, a couple of aircraft on here. Let's go down to 3,000. Set QNH. I think it's 1026, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Okay, QNH 1026 cross-check, passing 9,800. Now. Checked. Approach checklist. Barrel reference, QNH 1026. Minimum, barrel 360. Auto brake, 3. And that's the approach checklist complete. Okay, wonderful. So, everything really easy going for the time being. Once you find your way around where all the switches are located in the aircraft, it actually becomes really easy to fly. But that's how Airbus designed it. Now, I just want to give the brake to vacate another attempt over here. So, Düsseldorf. Display airport. The only question is, how can we bring this up? What if we just go over here a million times? Nah, not really. Was worth a try. Okay, well, that's fair enough, then. We'll just have to try. We'll just have to do without for the time being, then. That's gonna be for a future video. Something we can do, though, as we have a little bit of time remaining. The passengers are seated anyway, so let's take the autopilot off. Auto throttle off. And I just want to do a little bit of maneuvering over here to see how the aircraft handles. So, let's do flight directors off. Here we go. And then we can just do a little bit of going left and right. And I'm just doing very, very small inputs here, as you can see. Full inputs look like this. And to be honest, that's exactly how I would expect an A380 to fly. It gives us the roll rate we need. It has a bit of delay, look at this. I'm releasing the stick and it keeps rolling for a tiny bit. And that's probably just due to the mass of the aircraft. Remember, we're at 370 tons right now. That is almost 20 tons more than the maximum takeoff weight of the 777. So there is a lot of mass and inertia involved over here. However, the aircraft still flies like... well, it still flies like, you know, your, let's make sure we have the thrust levers in the correct position here. Interesting, this says thrust idle, but they are not in idle. Only if you go into the climb attempt? Nope, okay. Well, idle, full speed brake, let's go ahead and get rid of that energy. So let's just do direct Delta Lima 455 again. Maybe it can't do it because we are on the... Maybe it can't do it because it is the active waypoint already. Wouldn't be surprised if that's a limitation in the fly-by-wire at the moment. Okay, well, in that case, we'll just fly it right back onto the current flight plan. And the autopilot can probably do that. AP1, auto thrust. Let's try one more time. This looks a lot better. Okay, so that's probably good. Thrust idle. So the trick to get the auto throttle back on, or to get auto thrust back on...
2,500.
Checked. Too much Boeing flying in the last days. Is to get the thrust levers out of idle and then turn the auto thrust button back on. And then put your thrust levers back into the climb detent, and then they work perfectly. So, alt star, speed, alt. We've overflown the decel point, so the aircraft starts to decelerate on its own. And now let's have a look at how long it takes to get rid of all the inertia that the aircraft has. As you can see, not too long. It does have a lot of inertia, but it also has huge wings and a huge fuselage, providing quite a good piece of resistance, so it's not that hard to slow down. At least not when compared with other wide-body Airbuses. Think A330 and A340 over here. Right, turning final. Lockstar, Cat 3, dual, autopilot 1 and 2, glide slope blue. Flaps 1, speed checked. Flaps 1.
2,500.
Checked. Now, speed is coming down nicely, about 180 knots in flaps 1, looks pretty good to me. Let's get our point of view up a little bit so that we can see outside during our landing. I think this is probably better. Glide slope alive. And interestingly enough, the airplane went straight into config 1 plus F. Now, I'm not an A380 guy. Do you guys know if it's normal that it goes to 1 plus F rather than just config 1? Put it in the comments below. I'd be very interesting to find out. Lock. And it looks like the AI is flying onto runway 05. In that case, let's get rid of that.
2,500.
Remove traffic, please. So we will attempt an Airbus standard approach. That means at 2,000 feet we are going to start configuring the aircraft. And I do believe that that's the standard on the A380 as well, though I might of course be mistaken. Well, we are going to see about it. So I'm looking into the AFCOM as we speak, and at 2,500 they want us to select flaps 2.
2,500.
That's okay. So, glide slope capture, go around altitude 4,000 set. The airfield elevation is 150 feet. That means at 2,650 we are going to select flaps 2. Flaps 2, speed checked. Flaps 2. Looks like you need flaps 2 on the glide anyway, as the plane is accelerating a little bit. Gear down. Really gotta say, those are some pretty awesome sounds over here. Okay, flaps 3. Speed checked. Flaps 3. Flaps full, speed checked. Flaps full. Landing checklist. Landing checklist complete. Okay. So we're approaching the stabilized approach gate. We're in landing configuration. I'd say everything is looking pretty good over here. Just give me one last attempt here to see if we can use the OANS. No. Okay. Let's not bother with it. We'll figure that out for the next video. For now, let's go ahead and enjoy flying the A380.
1000.
So, auto thrust off. Autopilot off. Cat 1. Something that I really like is the responsiveness of the engines in this thrust range. Just look at how quickly they respond if I do a change in thrust over here. And that is really how aircraft engines work, so that is something that I do really appreciate. Now, something I found a little bit strange, if I completely let go of the stick, like I'm doing just now,
3 left.
checked, the nose somewhat seems to come down a little bit, and I'm not exactly sure why it's doing that. So that's something that I just don't know yet. Alright, approaching 2-3 left was checked and intentional. And that is VRAS in action.
Short runway. Short runway.
Yep. We know that the A380 can land here. Emirates does it daily. Checked.
Minimum.
Continue. And disregard the glide slope over there. We know that it is incorrect here in over here in Düsseldorf.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Alright. So, spoilers and reverse green, decel. 70 knots, manual brake.
Auto brake off.
1,500 meters remaining.
Again, that's VRAS in action there.
1,200 remaining.
And here we are. Welcome to Düsseldorf. So, we're going to vacate to the left over here. Those 10 knots just look so slow from up here. That's how it's really fun, isn't it? Okay, so let's go for the taxi chart down here and parking stands and, well, parking stands. And we'll be parking Alpha 10. I do believe that is where the real world A380 stood. Or actually Alpha 11, I think. Either 10 or 11. Let's see which one we have available in GSX, and that is the one that we'll select. Of course it says 0 suitable, that doesn't matter. Okay, we have 11 in here, then 11 is what we're going to take. And no, GSX, this is not too small. Lufthansa actually parked it there. So, up there it is. Let's make sure that we get the entire aircraft behind the hold short line. And we will just keep it taxiing very, very slowly while we do our housekeeping. So, flaps up, spoilers disarmed. T-cars standby. Timer off and lights off. APU on. And that's it. Okay, after landing checklist. Actually, we don't have one in here. Interesting. Okay, perfect. Then we don't have to worry about that stuff. Oh, hello there. Yeah, the ground movement camera would come in really handy. But we can do without. Alright. So, over to the left. Yep, maneuvering this on the ground is a bit of a challenge. I definitely have to say that. But well, for a second attempt, I don't find this too bad. Of course, there's always room for improvement, otherwise we should retire anyway. So, Alpha 11 over here, I will take it a little bit across the apron. Lights coming off. And this is our line, I believe. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure this is how the real one parked. So Alpha 10 instead of 11. 11 is the one going to the side over there. I'm pretty sure they were on Alpha 10. So we'll just get it in a little bit and that shall suffice. Luckily the A380 is not the longest aircraft, because after all this is the A380-800 and Airbus had originally planned on building a couple longer ones. Okay, so APU bleed is coming on, and then we can shut down the engines. 4, 3, 2, 1. Cabin crew, all doors in park. Alright. So, external power is already available, perfect. And now comes the challenge of turning off all those fuel pumps. So, those are easy. Now come the main pumps, where we gotta turn the standbys off before the mains. Like that. Okay, perfect. Parking checklist, please. So, park and brake our trucks. Brake is set. Wing light off. And that's the parking checklist complete. Alright everyone, that's it. Our first flight in the fly-by-wire Airbus A380. I sure hope that you enjoyed this one. I surely did, and I really gotta say this is probably the most amazing freeware aircraft that has ever been released for any simulator. It seems rather performance heavy for the time being, but remember, this is a development build, which means that they are definitely going to improve it over the coming time. So, with all of that out of the way, would I recommend you to get it? Absolutely. For freeware, this is totally amazing, and I really see myself enjoying this one over the next couple of months, maybe even years to come. So thank you very much for watching. I sure hope that you liked this one. Be sure to leave your comment and your feedback in the video description below. And if you have already gained your own first experience with the fly-by-wire A380, be sure to let me know how you liked it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.